Hi, my name is Dan, and in this video, we're going to learn how to play Secret Recipes, published by ThinkSec. Secret Recipes is a game for 2 to 5 players where you compete to score the most cake points by completing some delicious cake and cupcake recipes. Now, let me show you how it's played. In Secret Recipes, your goal is to score at least 12 cake points and be the baker with the most cake points at the end of the game. You'll collect ingredients to bake the recipes from your hand and score those delicious cake points. But watch out, your opponents may have the ingredients you need, or worse, they could steal your recipe before you can finish it. So let's take a look at how to set up the game, and we'll jump into the action. For your first time playing, just to keep things simple, we recommend not using the characters. So just take the characters and the Wild Willy card and place them back in the box. Now we're going to shuffle the ingredient, cake recipe, and cupcake recipe cards into 3 separate decks. Next, deal 7 ingredient cards, 1 cake recipe, and 1 cheat sheet card to each player. Look at all of your cards and make sure you keep them a secret. If you happen to be dealt an event card, just put it back in the middle of the ingredient deck. And then take the top ingredient card and place it in your hand. Give each player a pile of checkmark tokens, or keep it within reach of all the players to track their progress during the game. Now place the shuffled decks on the pantry board. And that's the setup. The player who most recently ate cake will go first, and if there's a tie, then the oldest player will go first. As the first player, let's take a look at my cards. First, let's look at my secret recipe. I start with this cake recipe worth 4 cake points. I need to try to collect the 5 exact ingredients listed on my cake recipe. Each cake has 4 types of possible ingredients: cakes, frostings, chips, and toppings. Let's see if I have any of the ingredients yet. Oh, nice! It looks like I have one of the ingredients already. I have chocolate cake. You can tell it is chocolate cake not just by the name, but by the color and icon in the top left corner of the ingredient card. It is black cake. I also have a wild card. That can be used as any ingredient, so I may want to save that until later. Now that I know what ingredients I need for my recipe, let's start my turn by performing my 1 action. On your turn, you can perform one of 3 possible actions: asking for ingredients, deep dive in the pantry, or just pick up another recipe. Let's take a closer look at how that works. Let's start by asking for an ingredient. It looks like we need yellow frosting. That is banana frosting. Choose another player and ask if they have banana frosting. So I would say, Evan, do you have banana frosting? If the player has the ingredient in their hand, they must give it to you. Since I got the ingredient I asked for, I can now ask any player for another ingredient. Rebecca, do you have white chocolate chips?
Dig in the pantry.
When you are told to dig in the pantry, you can either draw the top ingredient card from the deck or take one from the face-up pantry. This is the face-up pantry. These are cards that have been discarded by other players. Now that we've shown you how to do the ask for ingredient option, let's show you how to do the second of 3 possible options you can do for your action on your turn. That's the deep dive in the pantry option. To do the deep dive in the pantry, pick up the top 2 cards from the ingredient deck. Look at both of them, pick one to put into your hand, and discard the other to the face-up pantry. If you are struggling to get the ingredients you need, or you just want some more options, you can choose to pick up another recipe card as your 1 action this turn and add it to your hand. You can either choose to pick up another cake recipe or one of the easier cupcake recipes. In review, on your turn, you can choose one of these 3 possible actions: ask for ingredients, do a deep dive in the pantry, or pick up another recipe card. Once you've completed your 1 action for your turn, Then we can start baking some cakes. So let's start playing some cards to our play area. In the play phase, you can start baking recipes by placing ingredients from your hand next to a recipe in your play area. Mark each ingredient you've added with a checkmark token. Once you've revealed your recipe, beware. Other players can steal it if they have the remaining missing ingredients in their hand, but we'll talk about that a bit later. The game is called Secret Recipes for a reason, so you may not want to play your recipe immediately, or you may not want to play all the ingredients you have right away. Let's continue the example from before. I'm going to put down this recipe into my play area, but only put down the banana frosting, since people know I have it when I asked for it from Evan. Once an ingredient is being used to bake the cake, it cannot be asked for. However, if you have a duplicate ingredient in your hand, that one could still be asked for. Let's take a look at my cards again. Looks like I do have 2 more ingredients I could play, but I will choose to keep the chocolate cake and wild card a secret, and leave it in my hand for now. Let's talk about completing recipes. Completing recipes is your primary way to score cake points in secret recipes, and it works like this. Once you've added all the necessary ingredients to a recipe in your play area, that recipe is complete. When a recipe is complete, it can no longer be stolen by other players. Move the completed recipe to your scoring pile, and immediately gain the cake points listed on the recipe card. Count up all your cake points and see if you've reached the required 12 cake points to trigger the final round. Draw another recipe card for free whenever you complete one of your own recipes. The other way to score cake points, other than completing your own recipes, is to steal another player's recipe. So let's talk about how that works. If a recipe is in another player's play area, you can swoop in and steal it by adding all the missing ingredients from your hand. For example, if they played 1 ingredient to a cupcake recipe and it needs 2 more, you can add those 2 missing ingredients and steal the recipe for yourself. When you steal a recipe, add it to your scoring pile and count up all your points to see if you have 12. Don't worry though, it's not all bad. If your recipe is stolen, you get to immediately pick up a new recipe for free. The player who stole it does not. One thing we didn't talk about is at the end of your turn, you must never have more than 10 cards in your hand. So if you do have more than 10 cards in your hand, then you must either play cards to your play area or discard them to the face-up pantry. If you don't have more than 10 cards in your hand, then your turn is over. For example, I have 12 cards in my hand. I can play this card to my recipe, but this one I need to discard to the face-up pantry. Now my turn is over, and play continues clockwise. Now let's briefly talk about event cards. Occasionally, when you draw an ingredient card from the pantry, you may encounter an event card. These cards trigger a special event that affects everyone. All players must complete the action on the card immediately in turn order. After the event, place the completed event card in the trash. The player who drew the card continues their turn by drawing another ingredient card from the pantry to replace the event card they just drew. The game ends when the ingredient deck is empty or a player reaches 12 cake points. Once the final round is triggered, all players get 1 more turn, including the player who triggered the final round. At the end of the game, the player with the most cake points wins. If there is a tie, then the player with the highest point cake wins. So a 6-point cake would beat a 5-point cake. If it's still a tie, then the player with the most completed cakes, not including cupcakes, would take the victory. And that's how you play Secret Recipes. Don't forget to keep track of what other ingredients people are asking for and what other ingredients have been played to gain an advantage. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us. Thanks for watching and enjoy those delicious secret recipes.